Good evening. This is Chap's Fantasy Chat with Chappy, brought to you by drroto.com. Get your daily prescription of fantasy sports at drroto.com. I'll tell you, it's kind of cool. It's going to look a little different from here on out. Got some really lucky to have some great new partners to work with, and show's going to be a little shorter, but really trying to be action packed with it. So without further ado, let's get to it. Going to talk some fantasy baseball tonight, and this is an interesting time of year. I love the All-Star game. Actually, the All-Star game is kind of boring. But what I really like is the festivities the day before. So I really have fond memories of growing up and just making sure to catch that home run derby. And I'll tell you, I was lucky enough to go back in 1994. I'm going to date myself a little bit, but that's okay. Went to Old Three River Stadium to see, quite a display of power hitters, especially back then. And what a sight it was. I was kind of reminiscing a little bit about today and watching some of the highlights and stuff. Frank Thomas hit one, and people from Pittsburgh, they know how the allure of Dave Parker, the homers that he hit. Frank Thomas hit a ball into the upper deck at Old Three River Stadium that day, and I got to see that live, and that was just the coolest thing ever. So names that were in that lineup that day, really cool. Dante Bichette, Frank Thomas, like I said, Jeff Bagwell was the main headline guy there. And, of course, Ken Griffey Jr. and the Crime Dog, Fred McGriff, were all in that lineup that day. And I'll tell you, going back and watching the highlights of it, it's interesting. Boy, it's changed just quite a big spectacle now. And back then it was in the middle of the afternoon, and, it wasn't a primetime must-see event. But, if fast forward to this year, and I think you look at the players that are on the field this year are going to sure be worth the price of admission. When you look at guys like, of course, the front runners, Shohei and Vlad and Gallo, really kind of, that's all you could stop right there, right? But no, let's not stop there. Let's talk about the hometown kid, Trevor Story, the feel-good story, and Trey Mancini. And when it all comes down to it, if you're going to go out and play a, prop bet or whatever, the two guys that aren't getting talked about the most, in my opinion anyway, are Matt Olson and Juan Soto. These are two guys that if you like taking a long shot bet, I would consider Olson's the one really that makes a lot of sense as a prop bet, and I don't have that in front of me. But I think it's interesting to take note that a lot of times in these formats, it's the guys that don't have the pressure on. But look, let's be clear. I'm definitely going to have some money on Shohei. I'm definitely going to have some money on Vlad Guerrero, and of course Gallo is really hot right now too, right? So those three guys should be the front runners. But then after that, again, I think that Olson, I think he's the 4 seed. It makes a whole lot of sense, and kind of a good way to pivot away from the group a little bit. So it'll be fun. Of course, Colorado. There's going to be plenty of balls hit out there, and again, just really an interesting and entertaining evening. And it starts with the kids. It starts with the futures game. And if you're in prospect leagues, this is can't miss. You have to watch these guys, because guarantee you a handful of these players are going to play a role later on this year on a major league team. So just, I'm not going to sit down here and drill on all of these guys, but I think it's interesting to take note of some of these names that are going to be playing in this game on the 12th. I think that's Sunday in the afternoon. Of course, some guys I've talked a lot about, Quinn Priester, Nick Lodolo, Rosie Contreras, Marco Luciano, I think is one of those guys that doesn't get enough recognition yet, but it's coming, because he really is one of those players that is playing above his maturity level, and is doing really well, a la Vlad Guerrero, a la Wander Franco. So kind of going that route. And again, you'll get to see him. Jason Dominguez, Spencer Torkelson, Riley Green. Here's a name for you. Yoloqui Cespedes. Bobby Witt Jr. There are a lot of really good up-and-coming prospects in this game. And again, every year you want to see these guys to see which ones can help you out. Just quick notes that I noticed as I was going down through looking at these. 6 of the top 8 in MLB Pipeline 100 will be in this game. Rutschman, Abrams, Witt, Kelenic, Torkelson, and Julio Rodriguez. I think it's something like 8 or 9 of the top 25. So you really are getting what you're paying for with these prospects. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know who's going to be up at the end of the year here. But if I had to guess, I'm pretty sure Nick Lodolo is going to be up pretty soon. I'm pretty sure Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be up pretty soon. I think Kelenic comes back up pretty soon. So, again, playing right to your suits, a lot of these guys are going to be a difference maker down the stretch for these teams. So, it's just good entertainment. So really looking forward to that. But on top of that, I think it's a good time to kind of pause and take note, reflect, and look forward. We're halfway through the season. And as I've said every week for the last couple of weeks now, everybody's starting to check out the football. And that's okay. If you're one of those people, that's okay. But I'm telling you, if you want to really compete in your baseball league, which you paid money for, now is the time when you can really capitalize just by being able to forward think a little bit, okay? I'm going to give you some of my second half stars. And, you know, a couple of these guys are familiar names. One's an all-star. But yeah, basically the point of this is these guys, to me, are really set up to take off in this second half. And might be someone that you want to target if you're really in a position to contend this year and need one extra piece. So who am I talking about? The first guy, and I'll tell you, I talked about this guy a couple months back, but I think it bears repeating here because he's just getting more comfortable being that role that he's in. I'm talking about Tyler Stevenson of the Reds. He's the backup catcher. Yeah, of course, Tucker Barnhart's a Gold Glove catcher and, a competent major league player. So it's hard to say he's going to sit Tucker Barnhart. And, when Joey Votto was hurt, he hit cleanup and played first base in his absence and did a good job doing it. So you're looking at a guy here. I don't know if he sticks at catcher. Best case scenario with Stevenson is he plays catcher enough to be eligible there, but I think eventually he's Votto's replacement because he's a middle of the order type of bat. He's not the 30, 40 homer type guy yet, but you can see where he has the potential to grow into that. On the year, he's hitting 280 with 5 homers, 34 runs, and 22 RBIs. But again, I don't think it matters because hitting in that ballpark, hitting in that offense, and then a little bit of position flexibility too is going to be a good thing for him. Maybe he picks up some outfield eligibility at some point in his career. He's a little big for that. But, stranger things have happened. I look for him to be in his prime at 290 to 300 hitter, a 30 homer type of guy, a 100 RBI type of guy, and maybe more. I think that's I don't think I'm overextending too much, I guess is what I'm trying to get at with Stevenson. I think that's something that, even if you just put him in everyday role this year, it projects out much more favorably to those numbers. So Stevenson's someone that, is available in a lot of leagues, especially shallower leagues. You could probably get him as a throw-in if he is already rostered. He's probably on someone's bench or, he won't be that expensive. The second guy's probably going to be a little bit more expensive, but I think it's worth taking note and mentioning of. Robbie Ray. Robbie Ray, 6-4 with a 3.36 ERA, 119 Ks to 23 walks. Now, started out slow, but over this past month, he's really gotten comfortable, and he's starting to show his repeatability that he had way back in Arizona as a young kid. So over his last month starts. I don't. He's 3-1 with a 2.51 ERA. Yeah, it's his last month. He struck out 43 batters and over 28.2 innings, which is fourth best in the majors. He's the big thing about this is the biggest thing about this is his control. He's only walked 8 batters in that span. Now, for perspective, that's 7 less than Trevor Bauer walked over that period of time. So you're talking about a guy who has this perception of inconsistency, who has seemingly shown you that he's improved, and he's repeated it now for a while. His stuff has always been dominant, and he's always been a high strikeout guy. It's the walks that's been the issue, and it looks like he's gotten that under control. If you think about what the Blue Jays bring to the table down the stretch with Ray, Ryu, and Manoah, they could be a dangerous team. And I think it all starts with Robbie Ray's consistency, and I think he's going to do that. The Blue Jays are getting ready to take off, and Robbie Ray's a big part of this team. The next second half star that I want to talk about, and I think it's important because I think a lot of people have a misconception of this guy. This guy reminds me of JD Martinez, and I mean that in the most positive way. I'm talking about Nick Castellanos, his former teammate in Detroit. He's hitting .335 with 17 homers, 56 runs, 54 RBIs, and 2 stolen bases. He got a lot of his maturity from JD. They were the quiet, unsung leaders in that Detroit locker room, and Castellanos mimics what JD does, and it shows. Castellanos hits the ball hard. He always has hit the ball hard. He doesn't care so much about home runs. He just wants to hit line drives. So that ends up with a lot of doubles. It ends up with a lot of balls that put dents in the outfield wall. But fact of the matter is, he's in the 87th percentile in hard hit rate in the majors. He's hitting .405 versus the fastball on the year, and he's hitting .364 versus the fastball changeup combo. Guys, that makes it really tough to pitch to Nick Castellanos. What I mean when I say that is, if you know he's going to rip your fastball and you know he's going to rip your changeup, that leaves you pitching off of a secondary pitch as your predominant pitch, and more than likely a pitch you're not really comfortable with using a whole lot more often. So to me, that 17 home run mark at this point in the year, guys, I went last Wednesday, I went with my nephew to the Reds game at Great American Ballpark. Highly suggest it. If you've not been there, make a point to go see it. It really is a great park. But it was hot and it was humid. It thunderstormed that day, and it didn't really help the humidity at all. There were 6 homers in the first 4 innings. They played the Padres, by the way. I say that only to set this up. The ball's just now flying in Cincinnati. And the loft that Castellanos is going to get on his balls is going to only increase when that humid air affects those balls. Castellanos is on pace for a 30-homer season right now. But I think he's closer to 40 when it's all said and done. You throw, say, 37 homers, and with a 330 average, you're talking about an MVP type of ball player. Going unsung. Because everyone wants to talk about Shohei and Vlad and all these other players, right? Tatis and Castellanos doesn't get a whole lot of publicity, and he's fine with that. Meaning, this is an opportunity to go out and grab him, maybe for a little undervalue. Just a thought. And my fourth second half star. This guy's kind of a no-brainer. I kind of feel like I'm cherry picking a little bit, but I feel like it needs to be said. Willy Adames. On the season, he's hitting 247, 14 homers, 42 runs, 45 RBIs, and 3 stolen bases. He has looked like a different player since joining Milwaukee. He's hitting in the middle of that lineup, and his supporting numbers hitting in the middle of that lineup have shot up accordingly. Let's look at his stats, because this is the cool part. The games are almost exact. I think I looked last night. It was 41 and 42 games. So it's a real good comparison when you're looking at his stats for Tampa and his stats for Milwaukee. Batting average. Talking about Willy Adames. Batting average. Tampa Bay, 197. Milwaukee, 298. 100-point improvement there. Homers, 5 to 8. Not bad. Runs, 16 to 25. Again, we're talking about a 1-game difference between the two halves here, right? RBIs, 15 in Tampa, 29 in Milwaukee. And here's the biggest one for me. OPS. OPS is on base plus slugging. So on base is hits and walks over at bats, and slugging is weighted according to your power hit, your power numbers. So home runs weighted more than a triples, weighted more than a double, and so on. So his OPS in Tampa was 625. His OPS in Milwaukee is 930. Through 42 games, I think it is. Perspective. 930 OPS for Adames. If you take that 930 OPS that Adames has in his 40-something games in Milwaukee, and you line it up against what everybody's done so far this year, it would rank him 10th in the majors. I know it's a short sample size, but I'm big on pointing to a specific change that you can identify when targeting players. This is one. Adames hit third last night. So, speaking of change, Chap's Fantasy Chat, brought to you by Dr. Roto. Thursday nights at 8. It's great stuff, man. Thanks, Doc. Appreciate you, brother. Check out all the great content. We have like 25 podcasters that are awesome. They're all in that Scott Fishbowl, and the stuff that I'll tell you, they're amazing. I can't wait to get into football as well, but I'm going to talk baseball throughout because this is good stuff, and you guys need to hear this content. All right, part 2. So here's the premise. June 21st, beginning of a crackdown by the MLB on sticky substances. Since then, I talked about this a couple weeks ago. This is great because what they've done, the way they've initiated this, it stopped it in its tracks. It stopped the cheating in its tracks. Right, wrong, or indifferent. When a pitcher has to come out at the end of the half inning and show himself to the referee or to the umpires, there's no getting around that. So again, back to specific changes and points in time, we're talking about June 21st, and we'll revisit this as the season goes on. Things have changed. all these great pitchers all of a sudden. To do by Kermit. Don't look so great all of a sudden. But some of them look really great. So, I named this segment brought to you by Josh Donaldson's catalog. Hey, you're cheating. Now, okay, so let's look at this. Again, with the June 21st date, we're going to break down a couple pitchers, and we're going to see what they got going on. They cheating? Were they cheating? Because that changes. That changes our thought process on them, right? If you got some of these guys, you might want to dump them before it gets worse. Garrett Cole, 8-4 with a 2.91 ERA on the year. 105 innings pitched, 135 Ks, and 20 walks. 0.96 whip. Before June 21st, looked a lot like Garrett Cole's looked since he left Pittsburgh, right? 8-3, a 2.31 ERA, 117 strikeouts, 12 walks, 198 batters average against. The Yankees were 8-6 in those games. Since June 21st, Garrett Cole's 0-1. 3 starts. 6.46 ERA. Big boost. Not good one. 18 Ks and 8 walks. 8 walks and 3 starts compared to 12 over 14. 274 batters average against, and the Yankees are 0-3 in those games. Ouchie. Hey, you! You're cheating. How about Joe Musgrove? Joe Musgrove, 5-6 with the 2.96 ERA, 94 innings pitched, 110 Ks and 23 walks, 0.92 whip. Before June 21st, 4-6, 2.88 ERA, 79 innings pitched, 98 Ks and 17 walks, 176 batting average against. After 1-0, 6.60 ERA, 15 innings pitched, 12 Ks, 6 walks. Batting average against went up from 176 to 232. He's probably cheating. Probably cheating. How about Lucas Giolito? Lucas Giolito. Hang on. Lucas Giolito. I didn't have his stats up in front of me. 6-6 with a 4.20 ERA. 98.2 innings pitched. 116 walks. 116 strikeouts, 31 walks. Before June 31st or 21st. 5-5, 3.86 ERA. 103 and 27 Ks to walks. 207 batting average against. After June 21st, 1-1, a 5.82 ERA. 13-4. Batters are hitting 313 off of Lucas Giolito after June 21st. Hey, you're cheating. All right, there's benefit to this, right? Let's talk about some guys you can trust. How about some guys that since June 21st have actually stayed the same or gotten better? First guy I want to talk about, Giolito's teammate, Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn, boy, what a year he's had. What a great free agent signing he was for that White Sox rotation. 9-3 with a 1.99 ERA in 90.2 innings pitched, 105 Ks, 31 walks, and a 1.04 whip. Phenomenal numbers. Before June 1st or 21st, 7-3 with a 2.14 ERA. Pretty good. Pretty good. 75 innings pitched, 86 Ks, 21 walks, a 195 batting average against. Those are good numbers. After June 21st, 2-0 with a 1.20 ERA. Lowered his ERA. 15 innings pitched, 19 Ks, 10 walks. Little elevated with the walks, but that's okay. We'll let that slide. Batting average against slipped from 195 to 157 in his last 3 starts. Ladies and gentlemen, Lance Lynn has become more difficult to hit since the implementation of these rules by Lance Lynn. Buy him up. Anthony DeSclafani is having a breakout year. 9-3 with a 2.84 ERA. "101 innings pitched, 93 Ks, 28 walks, a 1.02 WHIP. Outstanding numbers again. Before June 21st, 7-2 with a 3.01 ERA. 2.05 batting average against. After June 21st, 2-1 with a 2.18 ERA. Lowered his ERA. 1.94 batting average against. Lowered that category as well. I love Anthony DeSclafani. He's been super consistent this year, and nobody's really paying a whole lot of attention to him because he's in San Francisco. He and Kevin Gausman have been their 2 best pitchers. Could probably get him for a decent price. I would suggest it. All right, going to wrap this up. Last guy I want to talk about, Jose Berrios. Jose Berrios, again, going to be a trade consideration anyway. Minnesota sure isn't doing very well. And, when you have a guy 7-3, 3.36 ERA, really is having, one of his best years so far. 101 innings pitched, 106 strikeouts, 27 walks. You look at that and, batting average against 227. His batting average against actually stayed exactly the same. But you look at what he's done since then. It's been 3.56 ERA, 2.45 ERA. Berrios is probably going to be on the move. He's probably going to go to a team that's going to win a lot more games. I was going to play the where they're going game. We'll do that. We'll do that at 10. Make sure to come back and watch me at 10. The Other Angle with Chap and RC, Thursday nights at 10. Guys, Thursday nights at 8, Chap's Fantasy Chat. Thanks for listening. Check out all our content on Dr. Roto, seasonal DFS tools, as well as premium access stuff to our staff for all your fantasy sports questions and the member-only Discord right here on drroto.com. Thanks for joining me, guys. Come back at 10. Check us out. See what we got to talk about. Hope you enjoyed the content. Talk to y'all soon. Good night.